All right, it is Tuesday night. Time for Talk Time with TJ, Triple T, number 233. Welcome. My name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver, but I always follow that up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking lots of questions. I've got a great tribe to pick brains from, and I know how to use the internet, so there you have it. But that's not what that's all about. We're here to have a little fun, share some knowledge, and get people's questions answered. If this is your first time with joining us, we are doing all sorts of stuff. We're live on YouTube, which means I get to say hi, Mom, up in Minnesota. And hello to everybody else on YouTube. And for those of you that are on YouTube or watching the recording for the first time, I'd appreciate it if you would do me the big favor that costs you nothing but a little bit of time to do a couple of clickety clicks. Click on that subscribe button, ring the bell, click some likes on some videos, leave some comments. I'd appreciate it. Helps the channel out. And if you find something on there that you enjoy, please share it with as many people as you can. I'm just here to try and help people find solutions they're looking for. And speaking of that, you can also check out my website while you're online. You can go to www.thetswb.com. The tallskinny-white-boy.com is what it stands for. The TSWB. You will find lots of information about the things that I'm privileged to do, like getting to help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, grief. I offer corporate counsel or corporate coaching. Some of them need some counseling right now. And I also work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level, and still doing a bunch of relationship work. So if you know anybody that's having some challenges in relationships, or if the challenge is no relationship and they would like one, have them reach out to me. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's right, 30 minutes of my time, no charge to you. We can talk about what's challenging you, and after 30 minutes, if I feel like we're a good fit, I'll let you know. And I also promise you, if I feel like we are not exactly a fit, I'll let you know, and I'll do my best to help you find the right person to get the solutions that you are looking for. Whew, that was a mouthful. And moving along quickly, it's time to introduce the tie of the week. Feeling a little blue because found out that Lenora won't be able to join us for the next 3 weeks, as she's got some trainings going on, and of course they're group trainings, so she can't change them, and they happen to be right during Triple T. So Lenora, when you watch the recording, yes, you're missed, and I'm dressed in blue, and poo is too. Another episode with a little poo on my tie. Been doing this since the first episode in 2024. Let's see, anybody got anything interesting they want to share from the last 7 days? And there you have it. Sometimes no news is good news. It can be nice to just have a nice week of even life. And we're sending out healing energies to our beloved Holly, who's still feeling a bit under the weather. Thank you for showing up, Holly, and hope those energies fill you up with good health and a full recovery, full and rapid recovery. Well, I guess you're welcome. And I guess if nothing else, I did get a text. We've got some people that are going to be joining us late, so I'll get into a quick description of what happens here on Triple T if this is your first time or first time watching the recording. It is a 2-hour show. First hour, I do my best to get through 3 topics that I've picked for the week. And then at the end of that hour, that's when the magic happens. It's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a topic or a question, and I let the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And we run through to the end of the second hour. So, disclaimer, I have a very large computer monitor, so yes, I do look all over the place. I've got people over here and over there and comments over here, and so I've had people think it was kind of crazy of me looking all over the place. So that's how that works. But time to bring up tonight's topics, and tonight's topics are recordings or lessons, Olympic worry, and procrastinator. So jumping right in, again, for those of you that have been around Planet TJ for a while, you know that a majority of my topics are from my clients, typically from the client of that day, of this day. So this is no different. One of my clients today was going through an event this weekend that hit them very hard, and we were boiling down to the reason why. And of course, a lot of the things, the challenges and issues that we as humans enjoying this human experience go through is flashbacks, triggers, and memories, and all the above. And so when my client was going through this, I asked them who was bringing up the old recording. And of course, it was their younger version, about 7 years old, and Dad was having a meltdown, one of many that got recorded and replayed and replayed and recorded and strengthened and all the above. And so I asked my client, does your 7-year-old understand that they are not in the recording? They're watching the recording like a movie. Yes, it's similar. What happened this weekend was similar. It was not the recording. And if you were to watch something like that happen on TV, would you have the same reaction? And if you did, was it because you once again went into the recording and believed that it was happening the way it did when you were 7? Or can you agree to watch it and then simply access the lesson? And my client stopped and let that sink in and realized what happened this weekend was only similar to what happened at 7 years old. And what happened when they were 7 was worse than what happened this weekend. But when they brought up the old recording and pictured themselves right back there inside of the recording, that's what they were experiencing. And luckily, we've been working together enough that this weekend, when it happened, they were able to control themselves because the adult was still in charge, realizing that they've been through stuff like this before. They weren't in danger. It was the kid inside of them that was afraid that things were once again happening. Any ahas, comments, epiphanies on that? Holly.
See if I could get my tech to work here. Sorry.
There you go.
Um, it's interesting you're bringing this up because so I've been doing a deep dive on astrology this week. See how long my voice holds out here too. Um, and one of the topics that kept coming up was this idea of spiral lessons. And what it said is sometimes you think, so I'm going through some transits that let's just say this group of transits are often known as the midlife crisis. And a lot of them are going retrograde. And for those who don't know, retrograde means the planet appears, it doesn't actually move backwards, but it appears to us to be moving backwards, which means it goes backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And anyway, the whole point came out that because I'm like, I've already been through this, like, how can I go through this again and again and again? Um, but the study said, the third time you go through it, because it's supposed to go through it 3 times, the third time you go through it, you will not be going through it all 3 times. You will not be going through the same lesson 3 times, even though it seems like the 3 lessons. Because if you think about it, the first couple times were the rehearsal, and then the third time is the real time through. So anyway, it was a completely different reframe
Hmm.
on what if the first time was your rehearsal, so that when you really had to face it, you had all of the understanding, all of the warning, all of the lessons ready to go, so that when it's live, you can handle it like it's nothing. And I just thought that was a very different reframe. I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely love the reframe too of, going back and clearing the charge and extracting the lesson. But it also gives it that positive spin of, I've been through this for a reason. I got the rehearsal, and there's a reason I went through it, is so that when it happened, I could handle it like nothing. Um, and then just the other thought, of course, I've mentioned this before, but this idea of, calibrating our lessons. That, we get the lessons that we need, but because we do it at a subconscious level, and often it's in moments of encoding, which might mean very, very heightened emotions, maybe even to the level of trauma. Um, Sometimes the lesson we get is not calibrated to the level it needs to be. And so we don't have to get rid of the lesson. We just need to go back and make sure it's calibrated for what we need.
There you go. That's a very cool reframe. Thank you for sharing that. Mark.
Yeah, when I see clients, I always ask them, a lot of times I'll ask them when they first sit down, I'll be like, okay, so what were the challenges, tests, and life lessons you got this week? And, and a lot of times you know, uh, they relate things that, happened in the past and, the, so, the recordings are always, they're not, well, again, the mind is not a good recorder of history. It's a recorder of your particular version of history. So, and with a little reframe, we can uh, get people to realize that, the reason why it's coming up is to be, recycled, rebalanced, purified, and to get, to get the lesson uh, from whatever challenges you might have had this week. So we try to, and I told him, I said, you can't trust the recordings.
Yes.
You can't trust your memories. It's that they say that even traumatic memories, statistics, studies show are only 40% accurate. So then my next sentence is usually, so what the hell are the rest of them?
Yeah.
So, you know, they're distorted by the size you were and and the size, everybody else was a giant when you were a kid, how those things, they're not particularly accurate, memories. So, and they're just recordings. They can't hurt you, or they can't, we want to go back into that memory, and, it's recorded in, you know, uh, high fidelity, but that's the past,
Yes.
so what was, the reason why it came up again, there's a life lesson embedded in it. That's why it stuck around and didn't fade, because you never got the life lesson out of it.
Yes.
So those can be useful.
Kind of like watching scary movies. And yes, the movies are designed to be hypnotic, to suck you into the story, get the emotions, give you goosebumps, and make you scream like a 5-year old when you get scared. But when it's done, you have to remind yourself that was constructed and put together, and it's not real. And if you have to watch it a couple more times so that it becomes predictable to where you can understand, A, you are not the person in the movie. B, it is a story and is not true and has nothing to do with you. Now, if it has a profound lesson attached to the message of the movie, learn by other mistakes, others' mistakes, and don't do the stuff that they did in the movie. But if you lived it, it happened. It is not happening. And you have to be able to separate the two and make sure that you extract, like we pointed out, you have to be able to extract the lesson or lessons to help prevent this event from happening over and over. Mark.
Yeah, I remember that commercial where it's they're hiding out from the monster in the mask, and they're hiding in the barn with all the chainsaws and other instruments. And one kid says, "Why don't we just get in the car and leave? What are you, stupid? Come hide with us in the in the barn with
Yeah,
all the blood and all the guts." Um, yeah, I'm not a particularly big fan of scary movies,
yeah, me either.
um, but uh, technique that I learned uh, when I was younger was because my wife loved them, so she wanted to go see all the scariest ones when we were dating. So, but I learned that if I just close one eye while the movie's going on, again, it disrupts the hypnotic attempt to suck you into the movie. And I could sit there through all the Halloweens and all the Freddy movies and all the Jason movies, and I just closed one eye, and I was like, yeah, this is interesting. It's a movie. As long as I kept one eye closed, I didn't get, sucked into it. So, just, because I didn't want to feel those feelings. So,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
so,
And
but,
of course, there are people that absolutely thoroughly enjoy them. That's why there's so many of them. And, some people uh, take it a little too far. It's interesting when you start looking at some of the phobias that were created through literature and film. Uh, it totally blows my clients away when I tell them that arachnophobia is by the lifespan of humans, arachnophobia is a rather recent event. Like, what? Yeah, if you study it, what brought on arachnophobia? Literature and movies. There was another movie that created a frenzy killing of a very specific animal. Dun 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 dun. Yes. And when Jaws came out, people suddenly were terrified of swimming in the ocean. And if they saw anything resembling what might be a shark, shark was screamed, yes, and the beach immediately got all the people that were in the water, like immediately, until they found out it was a porpoise or found out it was a floating box or so. Mark.
Yeah, and that goes back quite a ways. You know, Shelley with Frankenstein and
Yep.
Dracula. I mean, again, a lot of those novels were written as what do they call, yeah, like a they weren't written to frighten. They were like political statements. They were like they're cut. These doctors, they're cutting up people, and what are they doing with them? And and when they were just following the science. But some people, an autopsy, you can't do that. That's against God's will, And they frighten people. Again, they frighten doctors into not wanting to do autopsies. And blood is sacred. Blood is you can't be a creature that will live indefinitely off of someone else's blood. I mean, again, terrorizing the populace about blood research, and again and all that led to transfusions and getting pushing the science forward. But yeah, a lot of people were up in arms after those novels came out.
Yeah. And if they would, when they, when those things came out, those writings, those recordings, those movies, the amount of people that had such, what would you say, they were so shaken, so unsettled by what they had seen because they couldn't separate themselves from the movie, the lesson, and their inner reality. And so when my client again this weekend, they mentioned that when we had first started working together, what happened this weekend would have absolutely did them in. They wouldn't have been able to deal with it. They would have gone full rage, fighting back, all the above. And this time, they said this is probably the best they've ever been able to handle a situation like this, even though their inner 7-year-old had to go in, pull out the old movie, put it in while the event was happening, and turn it into what it was not, or added fuel to the flame that was happening in front of them. And so when we were able to extract the lessons out of it. The 7-year-old allowed us to go back and replay what they recorded as what happened that week or this weekend. And the 7-year-old could watch that and realize they weren't in danger. In fact, they had forgotten, ironically, that they had already survived what was in the recording that they brought in anyway. Yeah, it was a bad situation when they were 7, but they survived it. And all they needed was the lessons. Holly.
Yeah, it's interesting you're mentioning that with the comments about movies. One of the thoughts that popped into my head was, have you watched the complete movie, or did you push pause early on?
There.
If you think about it, like any movie, I mean, would you go to a movie? I think I've said this before. Would you go to a movie where you just watch somebody having a really comfortable, boring life for, 2 hours straight? Like that would not be a movie that you'd sign up to go see. It's not a video
Right.
game that you'd sign up to play.
Yes.
But if you were to, pause the movie, a lot of movies, pause the movie 30 minutes in, they've just had what they think is the worst experience of their life. And I mean, I know there are some movies that don't end well, but
Yeah.
but if you take it, whether it's a series or a movie or whatever, you take it all the way to the end, what seemed in the moment to be the worst experience of their life ended up being the best thing that could possibly have happened to them because it took them out of their comfort zone into the new world that was waiting for them.
Right.
And so are you pausing in the moment where you've just been taken out of your old world before you've had a chance to go into your new world and realize you're not only okay, you're even better off?
What a great point. Thank you for that. Yes, uh, I think you're right. The vast majority of those anxiety or fear events that get relived, they paused it at the worst possible time. We're going to watch it right up to the very bad part, and then we're just going to put that little part on loop over and over and over and over. And we're not going to let it get to the part where we wake up the next day still alive. Am I saying it was fun? Let's go back and redo it? No. But again, it happened. It is no longer happening. If it is happening over and over today, then it's time to take action to get it to stop. Find safety, find somebody to make it stop. But for something that happened 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years ago, it's no longer required to relive it over and over in your head. Extract the lessons and get back to living. Any other comments? By the way, I want to welcome Mo and Mike and Renee. Thanks for joining us. I think the other part about the concept of recordings and lessons, and Mark touched on it a little bit, is how absolutely inaccurate they have been proven to be. Even if you think about it, if you watch a movie one time and 5 days later somebody asks you what the movie was about, and you try to tell them, and they ask about a specific part of the movie, you might be able to knock out a couple of parts, but it's still not a representation of the movie. And then you wait another month, 6 months, 6 years. If you only saw the movie once, which is our memory of what happened in our life, because we're not bringing it back and as an actual recording. Now, if you have the actual footage, the video footage, and you've watched it 15, 20, 30 times, like you have your absolute favorite movie or your favorite song or your favorite poem, chances are, yes, your recollection is a little more spot on. But a good portion of what we've gone through, what we've experienced, especially for those of us that were born back in the 1900s, our childhood memories are probably not on a recording. And if so, we haven't watched that Super 8 reel in in a while. So, yeah. Oh, I had one little thing I forgot to tell everybody that's watching on YouTube or watching the recording. You don't have the privilege of seeing the comment section over here, so please join us. We don't charge anything, but Holly put in there, thanks for making me feel really old. Yeah, we're with you, sweetheart. Mark.
Yeah, if you ever watched like an old VHS tape of a vacation or even like a birthday party, you're like,
Yes.
I don't remember that happening, you know. That
Yep.
that person was at the party? Oh my God, you know, it's almost like you have to be reminded of the of how much you sometimes you miss. Like when I went to Disney first time with the kids, I had one of those big clunky, camcorders on my shoulder for the entire trip, and I'm watching the entire trip through the viewfinder. And then at night we go back to the hotel, and I was able to hook it up to the TV in the room, and but again, there was a lot going on that like I said that the kids didn't even remember. So, and Holly's right. Again, a boring movie is you know uh, one that never happens. And good actors are very good hypnotists. They can make you believe the character, like Jaws, and the
Yes.
you know they how they're reacting, and they're we connect to the their experience, their fear, and we need a bigger boat. Oh, we connect that line to Jaws, so uh the I couldn't tell you who the actor was, but there were some but these characters, again, we connect to them, and like I said, when you look at recordings of real life, you're like, oh my God, that really happened. Oh, I'd forgotten that, who was there and what was going on. So
And
it's
that brought
all.
up two squirrels. Like, if you, with how spoiled we've gotten with technology, especially in the movie industry these days, and you go back and you watch Jaws, you're like, they fell for that? For real? Yes, they did. It was very convincing because back then that was cutting edge technology in movie making. Holly.
This is making me think of so when I was quite young, my aunt got, the really fancy, expensive camcorder that not everybody had and was, practicing at a family party. And I'd seen that. First of all, I had memories of that night, bizarrely, even though I was quite young. But second of all, I'd seen that video many, many times. And yet, I'm just thinking about it. Even that experience, I recently had my mom explained something that was going on in the video that I thought I understood but didn't understand until she was able to give me that new piece. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, even if you think you're picking up on what's in front of you, there's so many pieces that are above and behind and outside even if you had a recording to listen to over and over and over again, you're not going to pick up everything that's in it. And then this other thought just popped into my head. Take this for what it's worth, but Mandela effect. I
Mhm.
swear it was the Berenstein Bears. I swear, that there was a
Yes.
cornucopia.
Yes.
A lot of these things. Now, here's the thing. I don't know how many of those things are just psychological. I know some of them are psychological games because there's occasional when I'm like, no, I swear that's never been that way. But if it's possible that we are looping through different realities, it's also possible you've jumped into a reality where something's no longer true. Like I said, take that with a grain of salt, just throwing it out there. But
Yep.
there's so many weird things that can happen. And then also, who was it? I think it was Chase Hughes was talking about a study they did in, I think it was Canada, where they were able to get something like 90% of participants, they were able to install false memories into them.
Yep.
And so, once again, take memories for what they are. They're ways to understand the world. They're learning, their stories. Don't ever assume that you have reality because who knows what might be influencing it.
No, 100%. And I love the fact that you pointed out just because it is on the screen, even the memories in our head, just because it's on the screen, doesn't mean that you know what was going outside of the view of the camera lens. And that is a great point to understand with our memories. Even the stuff that we thought we remembered verbatim, da 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 da, and I remember this one time when I got in trouble and Dad was so angry and all this stuff, and your mom goes, what day are you talking? Or that event? Yeah, that was the day that your father had to shoot the dog. And you'd completely forgotten, you in your mind, the dog ran away. You didn't have enough information even then. And so the recording didn't match the information that you thought was so true and so relevant. And so, once again, you have to take even your memories with a grain of salt and look at what lesson could I extract from that quote unquote recording and let the rest of it go away. Any other comments on this before we shift gears and try and get a couple of topics in? For those of you that are wondering, yeah, there are times where we get one topic in the first hour. Well, I'm going to segue us into a topic we've talked about a couple of times, but it came up again with two of my clients today. And that is worry. Oh, the joys of the worrier. Oh, and if you want to really be a worrier, and then you work long and hard and many years at being a worrier, maybe someday you could even become an Olympic level worrier. Anybody, how many of you know an Olympic level worrier? Show me hands. Yes, I know a few of them. And it's so sad. And don't get me wrong, I am not going to say that I never worry and that worry does not have its place, because Worry protects us at a certain level. Worry has brought about certain inventions, certain safety features, all the above. But when we get to the Olympic level warriors, and I know a few of them personally, it gets to the point where it's not healthy. The energy that it takes, the energy that it puts into your body, and most of my professional warriors, when I ask them, so um, what's your success rate? Out of all the things you've worried about, how many of them have actually happened exactly the way you worried about them, at the time you worried about them, with the results that you worried might happen, and you were prepared because you had been worrying for the last 20 years about the kind, that, oh, I watched this one news report, and there was this plane where the engine fell off the plane and it landed right through somebody's roof in their house. And can you imagine? Oh my gosh! And that, yes, that has happened, and you can spend the rest of your life worrying about whether or not you're in a flight pattern where there might be a plane flying over you, or you could simply state the people that lived in that house, did they worry about that happening before it happened? Or did it just happen? And you go, wow, I never thought of that event never crossed my mind, and I lived this long without it bothering me. Mark.
Yeah, it's funny. I like the language. When a dog has a bone and he's like chewing it up, that's actually when he's worrying it down to nothing. And so he keeps chewing on it and chewing on it and chewing on it until there's nothing left for him to worry on. That was one thought. The other one was Castaneda. He talked about you know, and I use this sometimes with people, the worrying about stuff that, like if the airplane is coming in, that's why I close the door, through the window, um, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes.
So, his advice was like if you're bending down to tie your shoes, um, you know, um, and the asteroid's coming in. The only decision you have to make is whether you tie your shoes like a fool or tie your shoes impeccably.
Yeah.
So that's about all you can focus on is that, that are you living an impeccable life where, if tying your shoes is the last act, did you do it impeccably or did you tie them like a fool?
Yeah.
So, and that's a little bit of Carlos Castaneda sneaking in.
And I love the quote, out of the 100 things that I have wasted my energy worrying about, 99 of which never happened. And the one that did turned out to be nothing. And one of the things I pointed out to my client today was you can worry, you can hope, or you can pray. Guess which one is healthier? Pray about it, let it go. if worrying was worth if worrying was effective, there'd be much less accidents, much less sick people, because you could worry somebody healthy. But when's the last time you worried somebody healthy? When's the last time you worried somebody into being rich? Versus when's the last time you worried yourself into an upset stomach? When's the last time you worried yourself into a headache? When's the last time you worried yourself into an inability to sleep? So, one of the things I told my client, if you're going to worry, then why not invest the time into worrying things that are worth worrying about? Like, yeah, Mike put a great comment in there. Said, how much energy are you wasting on all of the things you are not able to control versus doing the things you can? And for the Olympic warriors who are professional warriors, and if you're going to worry about something, worry about things like how much money or how much tax am I going to have to pay when I win the lottery? I worry about how long the tires will last on my brand new car when I am enjoying driving it. Worry about whether or not somebody's going to send you $1 million. The last couple of times that we've covered this, I pointed out, what do all Olympic warriors have in common? Focusing on worst case scenarios. You will not hear somebody worrying out loud, other than on Triple T and a few other things like this. You're not going to hear them worrying about best case scenario. Oh, I've got this vacation coming up, and well, what if we end up leaving on time? And what if traffic is amazing? And what if the roads are perfect? And what if the car gets really good gas mileage? And what if we show up at the hotel a little early? And what if they give us free upgrades? Oh my gosh, I have to worry about that. Well, that sounds like a better thing to worry about. As long as if you feel the need to worry. Holly.
So this is a topic. I obviously am one of those champion warriors. If I need to bring this up in the second half, the second hour, so we can properly explore it, let me know. That's fine. But so I'm doing better at, we talked about there's nothing you can do about it. I'm doing a lot better at letting those kinds of things go. If I could say, you know what, there's genuinely nothing I can do about it.
Good.
I'm getting better at, those things that, well, if I feel like it's not a threat to, like I'm going to survive it. So like playing it out to the end and saying, okay, maybe I'm going to be late to this function, but at the end of the day, is anybody even going to remember 5 years from now? I'm getting better at those things.
Yes.
But where I still struggle is, and you mentioned, how often has, you focus on worst case scenario. I'll have somebody tell me it's worst case scenario, but I think where I really got burned is I told myself, oh, if I just focus on best case scenario, it's going to happen. And there are times where you can make contingency plans.
Hmm.
So I don't know if I'd call it worrying, but it can turn into worry if it's not working out. You can make genuine contingency plans to prepare for situations. And then when those situations come along, they're not as bad because you have a contingency plan in place. You have
Yes.
the resources in place. And I recently had some experiences where I chose to say, oh, the worst case scenario is not going to happen. And honestly, what I thought was worst case scenario was about a tenth of what actually happened,
Yep.
as far as bad as it was for me. And so I think I'm still a little bit scarred on that. So I
Yep.
guess my question is, how do you, first of all, identify if it's something that genuinely, and this is, something that I feel like is a kind of survival level worry as well. And I do believe there's something I could do about it. So how do you determine if you've got an issue like that? And then how do you address it when you know there are resources out there, but you're struggling to find the right resource to come up with the right contingency plan, if that makes sense?
Great, great question. That's why I pointed out that worrying has a bit of its place. And that's so that you can, for situations that are upcoming, that are realistic, you can have contingency plans. You can put together things of that nature. And that the other part is to understand that even the events, like you pointed out, where at some point in your mind you're like, yeah, this could happen, but it won't be that bad. And then all of a sudden it turns out, it, like you pointed out, it was 10 times worse than you thought it could be. You're still here to talk about it. Even though it was 10 times worse than you imagined, you're still here. You have survived that, and you have hopefully found lessons in there to extract and prepare you better for the next time. Holly.
Sorry. So follow-up question to that, because it is true that I'm still here. But I think the biggest problem for me, and I'm sure other people have been in this scenario, which is hopefully this will be helping everybody with this conversation, but is I've done the math and the hit, I haven't recovered from it fully. The reason I was able to survive it is because I had margin. I no longer have that margin. I now no longer I now know that hit is possible. If I got hit with that same hit today, I would not survive it. I don't believe. So how do I handle that?
You're basing that on who you were before the original event happened. You are not the same person. You do not have the same tribe. You're not in the same situation. You can try to evaluate what it might be like, what it could be like, but you're a different person. And that event, even if it happened worse, you still can't put a full contingency plan against what could be. That's the part that I like about the realizing that there's only so much that you can prepare yourself for and worry about before you get to the point where, okay, if it's beyond this, then it's going to happen. It kind of like the scenario with the part falling off the plane crashing through the roof, and the people going, oh gosh, and my husband broke his leg, and and if it happened again, well, if it happened again for the second time, either you should move out of the flight path, or The next time it could be the whole plane, not just a part. But if the only way through is through, worrying about it won't stop that plane mid-flight. Worrying about it won't put the titanium bubble over the house. Now you can try to figure out some type of radar detection that will go off if something is heading towards your house, and spend lots of money and practice. Have your bomb shelter in the basement. But there's a whole lot of houses right now that were built in the 50s, and I took care of 2 of them that have bomb shelters built under them that ended up being very expensive storage areas. Yes, they had a contingency plan in place. Yes, there was a real threat that the opposing team could have sent nukes over and bombed us. And the other people, there were people that went, you know what? If the nukes are headed our way, if I've got a couple hours, I'm going to call up the people that I love, get them to the house as quick as possible. I'm going to pull out the best food that I've got in the house, a couple of steaks, whatever I got, throw them on the grill, and we're going to drink margaritas like there's no tomorrow, because there will be no tomorrow. And we're going to stand outside and watch the blast in the mushroom cloud, and it'll be over and it won't matter anymore. I've been through enough stuff myself, and I can sit here and worry about, am I prepared enough if it happens again? But I look at it and go, yeah, that really sucked. I don't want to go through it again ever, but I'm here to talk about it, and I'm not going to worry about it because I've survived it. And if it happens again, or if it happens worse, it won't be the same exact event anyway. I can sit there and try to practice what I'm going to do as long as it happens exactly the same way. If there's any tolerance difference in there, I'm not fully prepared for it anyway. So I'm just going to enjoy life, live well, keep my health as good as possible from being affected by unnecessary worry, and pray that I don't have to use the knowledge that I gained from the first time I went through it to survive the second time. Mark.
Well, I would, if I have a client that, I urged him to start an emergency fund, a contingency fund for, the unexpected and stuff like that. And he, some things came along, and now I just gave him a new worry, I don't have any money left in my emergency fund. I said, well, start again, start building up that fund, turn in bottles and cans, and, that's, and any side money for, helping people out that he gets, put that, again, that's how we built the emergency fund in the first place. I felt like all I did was give him another worry. Now he's worried that there's not enough money for the next unexpected thing in that he doesn't have the money in the emergency fund to cover. But I was very proud of him that he was able to put together that emergency fund. And so that when the unexpected did happen, he didn't have to, not pay a bill and it was getting up there. And then, something happened with the car and, he had the money in the emergency fund to get it fixed, but then I just gave him another worry, oh my God, now I don't have money in the emergency fund.
Yeah.
So I have to urge him to start building in again. And, but it was, again, he was very proud that he had all that money put aside, in the sock drawer, and he was able to use it to deal with the unexpected. And, you're right, Holly, you got to have a plan B, plan C, plan D, and I usually have, plan double J, so I'm always thinking about what's plan A doesn't work out. I don't worry about it. I just switch to plan B or C or D or E or F. So, I don't have time to sit there and worry about it. I just switch to the next plan. So,
Yep. And that brought us through the top of the first hour. And don't worry, Holly, we can continue this because we're going into your hour. I was just going to explain to people that we're going to switch things up. And now it's the second hour, which is open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a question or a topic, and I let the people on the call answer first. And we've got some great comments that I didn't even get to from Mike, about said he loves finding options to create a more proactive action instead of reaction. And how do you create more tolerance? How do you create more space? How do you release the tension? How do you enable a skill? How do you set a threshold and the action to take? Do any of these resonate, understanding we are speaking in theory? And then Mike added, the perspective Mark was discussing comes from a calm perspective, one who is chunked up and the ability to see the larger picture. Yep. And I'm going to make a quick comment and then let this go. Part of that comes from training, upbringing, understanding, and the other part comes from experience. When you've gone through enough stuff, less stuff bothers you. Unless you grew up in a very nervous, worrisome environment, then it's hard to let go of the past, because in theory, well, if it happened once, it could happen again. If it could happen again, it could happen 2 more times. If it could happen 2 more times, it could happen 12 more times. Or it could just happen once and you've survived. So you guys can now take it whichever direction you want to. Holly.
So we don't have to keep going forever, but I do want to kind of put some positive things in there, not just questions. So once again, there's still that area, that I wonder about, but I will say if you're in a place where you're struggling with worry or fear, and there is a difference between the two.
Yeah.
And I would say if you've asked yourself the question of, is this something that I'm afraid of, but I've played it to its conclusion and it's not a survival question, or I've played it to its conclusion and I know there's nothing I could do about it. If you want something that you could tap into to help with that, there's your 5 element theory. And so if you know your five elements, you've got, these aren't in order, but earth, fire, wood, water, and metal. Some systems call metal air. I mean, there's lots of different systems, but so every element has its pathological emotion and its transcendent emotion. And so earth is the pathological emotion of worry. And water is the pathological emotion of fear. And I believe, that the difference between those two is fear is being afraid of something that has no substance to it. Worry is being afraid of something that actually has some substance to it, because, Earth is very grounded. So if you want a good way now, first of all, if you're working with somebody else and you're annoyed by their worry and their fear, one thing to just go inside yourself and say, am I being judgmental because I'm a different element? So fire, their big thing is manic joy. So they have a tendency to overdo it with the fun. Wood, their pathological emotion is anger. And metal, their pathological emotion is grief. So maybe you're a wood element and you have a tendency to sometimes get really, really angry. And you're really, really mad at somebody who is experiencing a lot of worry. That might just be a mismatch of your elements. So, just kind of a way to show compassion for each other. But the transcendent emotions, now Earth, I've heard a lot of different versions, but the one I'm going to go with is learned instinct on this one. And the reason this is important, so remember, Earth is worry. And you can use the controlling cycle to help. But I like Earth because Earth controls water. So whether it's fear or worry, if you improve your transcendent emotion of Earth, it's going to help with worry or fear. And so learned instinct, practice, grounding, those are going to help with worry or fear, regardless of which one it is. So that's a really good practice to get into. For water, which is fear, the transcendent emotion is wisdom and understanding, which I had a thought we might also call that reframing. So if you're able to put it in its place, if you're able to understand the lesson that you're getting out of it, that's basically using the transcendent emotion of your water to quash the pathological emotion of your water. And then, like I said, so you can use Earth controls water, so you can use Earth to control your fear as well. Or wood controls Earth. Now, this one's kind of a little bit interesting, but the transcendent emotion for wood is kindness and compassion. And I think I've shared this one before, but Gordon B. Hinckley was telling the story of he was having a lot of, he was having a pity party for himself when he was out on his mission, and he wrote a letter back home to his dad, thinking his dad was going to say, oh, you poor thing, come home, it's no big deal. And his dad wrote him back a letter and said, forget yourself and get to work. And so if you're in worry, if you're in fear, if you forget yourself and have compassion for somebody else, serve somebody else, it's amazing how many times that can also eliminate your fear or your worry. So every one of those. And I will say, even this contingency plan, I think a lot of that is learned instinct. I'm practicing, I'm getting a contingency plan, I'm in practice, and I know exactly what to do. And, I have a couple places. I think that's my biggest thing is I don't have a script, and, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Freeze is my first one. And so I know if I don't have a script, I'm going to freeze. But in the areas where I have a script, that learned instinct, I don't freeze. I follow the script and just go straight into where it's supposed to be. So anyway, I just thought those are some techniques that work for me. Maybe they'll work for other people too.
Yep. Mark.
Well said, Holly. TJ, you'd be so proud of me. I learned a new word this week. It's called tunneling. And if people aren't familiar with it, I guess it's pretty new. But it's defined as stress or worry due to financial difficulties. So put that on your new word of the day, tunneling. And
Type that into the comments so people can see.
sure. But stress due to financial difficulties. Again, and it's, again, stress, and I've said this before, is a construct that we create. But the fuel in the tank is fear. So you have to decide
Mhm.
what the fear is, again. And, a couple of my reframes that might be comfortable, but they're comfortable for me. Um, one of them is, hey, I'm here on borrowed time.
Mhm.
I am officially the most long-lived male in my line uh, to date. Okay,
Good.
no one I know as far back as you go, my grandfather, my great grand, they all died early. So hey, I'm here playing with house money. So um, I I don't I I uh, I don't have to stress out about money because, like I said, I'm here on borrowed time. You know, whatever
Yep.
time I'm setting new records every day when I wake up. So,
Yeah.
um, hey, I'm here. I got another one on the count that one. All right, so so I'm ahead of the game. I'm here on borrowed time because factually, I am the most long-lived male in my line as far back as I can go. And so yeah, every day I'm playing with house money.
Perfect.
So I don't stress out about, and I don't have any fear, like I said, because I got rid of fear a long time ago. I I was on the fear train for too many years, and one day I wasn't because I got off. And so I don't feel stress,
Yeah.
for that and a myriad of other reasons, again, I've been blessed to have, a woman that loves me, God knows why. Because I'm not easy. I have grandchildren that adore me, so I have kids that love me. I mean, like I said, in all the ways that really matter, I'm rich.
Yeah.
So I don't, I don't think I'll be doing any tunneling, and and sometimes again, sometimes but I've not been a planner all my life and saved every nickel, and I just if I need more money, I work harder. I find another stream of
Mhm.
income, and so I've always had the ability to make money, and so I don't stress out. Basically, I just again, I don't feel stress because I don't feel fear because, like I
Kind of
said,
like
from my
the
point of view, I'm here on borrowed time.
kind of like the same reason that the bird doesn't worry about whether or not the branch will hold it because it has faith in its wings. It knows it has the ability. If the branch breaks, next, Holly.
I'd like to drill down on something Mark said, and this is probably true for several of you. But you mentioned if you're in a situation where you need money, you're going to go out and make more income. And I've always admired that. I always wish I had that. And I've tried it a few times, and every time I've ever done it, I've lost money trying to make money some other way. Or I have dropped, I feel like, I'm constantly juggling, and I dropped one of the balls and I lose my ability to make even the money that I am making. So I'm just curious, what do you think is the secret to being able to going out and making income when you need it?
Finding a need that you can fulfill. That's how I ended up with all of the jobs that I had. I knew that I had a skill that would service a need, even if it was as mundane as the ability to clean, to sweep floors, to there's so many things that can be that people need help with. Find a need, fill that, and get paid for it, and don't be afraid to ask to get paid. I mean, you got you got teenagers that have been working in the restaurant industry for since the dawn of time, and even though the pay isn't designed to support a family, it'll supply food. Mark.
I would say the secret is, again, is a mindset
Yep.
similar to what you're saying, TJ, but the couple of squirrels uh, grabbed my ears.
Squirrel.
When I got laid off from the state, some people would have been devastated. I came home, I knew it was coming. And, I handed the letter to the wife and she looked at me. She says, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to get going." And within a week, I had two jobs. And for a while, I had to carry those two jobs and, you know, and, you know, the, you know, and, to make up for the lost income. But eventually things got better, you know, and, Tony Robbins, I'll give him credit for a few things once in a while. He said, "It's never about resources, Holly. It's about being resourceful."
Yes.
Okay. Um, that's one of his taglines from the past. It's never about I don't have the skill. I don't have this. I don't have that. It's about being resourceful enough, like TJ said, is finding a need, and if you've not experienced success, try to find an alternate stream of income. Keep keep plugging away until you find one. The secret is really no secret. It's just you got to get, like I said, told my wife, you got to get going. And I was able to uh, take what skills I had, and I had to drop down because I knew they needed new direct care to in the institution to change diapers and to bathe people and to feed people with disabilities, and so I got a job. I got a job, and I knew that after another couple of years, I would get in my minimum retirement age, and I would be able to retire. So there was a light at the end of the tunnel. I just had to survive for 2 years, two and a
Yep.
half years, and then then I could build my practice based on the money I was getting, pay for my kids' education and everything else. But there's no secret to it, Like I said, there are no secrets about finding a need. There's so much need out there. People are, like I said, there are people that need people that take care of older people. There's again, whatever you bring to the table, you can strategize and become resourceful about what you do have, and then what you can offer somebody and get paid for.
Yes.
Just like TJ said. So that's my
My
two cents.
my wife's brother's daughter is now a professional dog walker. She's making bank, and yeah, it's not an easy job, but it's also not a hard job. And now she's gotten to the point where she's so busy, she's turning down clients, and she has clients that are challenging her. They want her to house sit on top of walking their dogs. And so she's having to juggle things around a little bit. But that just started because she had a neighbor who asked if she knew anybody that would be willing to walk her dog while she was recovering from an injury. Sometimes the job just finds you. You just have to have your eyes open and be ready for it to accept it. I've, uh, those of you that know me, I've had a few different jobs in a few different fields. You go to my website and click on the About Me tab and open up the PDF, you'll see what I mean. But I'm probably partial exception to the rule, mainly because of my belief in my ability to overcome, adapt, and improvise. Uh, uh, Something I learned from my godfather when I was young was that phrase: overcome, adapt, and improvise. Life happens. Can you plot, twist, left turn, and ride the ride? Any other ahas, inputs, epiphanies on this comment? Is it time for another topic, or did you get the answers you were looking for, Holly?
Definitely helpful. Out of curiosity for Mark and TJ and anybody else who wants to chime in, let's say you had somebody who lost their job today and they asked you for a step-by-step checklist. They say, you know what, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to find a need. I could think of 10 needs off the top of my head that people need, but how do I get clients who are willing to pay me? And how do I know what to ask for? What would your checklist be of, you're here, do this?
Anybody want to answer before I do? Mark.
Take a swing at it. So somebody lost their job today. Okay, so what are you going to do tomorrow? Like I said, you were working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. Well, your job now is to find a job. So you should be devoting at least 20 hours of that, at least 4 hours every day to find a job, and even, again, there's all kinds of work out there for people who want to work. I've told people, just, go to if you've got some skill with a hammer, go to a job site. Hey, can you use a good man? And they always can, or, if you know how to run a lawnmower and a rake and a trimmer, you have a pickup and a barrel, you just started a landscape business and you knock on enough doors.
Yep.
You start small and you build, but you got to do an assessment. A checklist would be, okay, so what do I have? What can I offer people that they're willing to, trade me, pieces of paper for? And, I'm on the other end of that now. There's certain things that, like climbing on a ladder, I don't want to do. And I'm more than willing to, pay a younger fella of my acquaintance, pieces of paper to go do what I don't want to do. So he did some work on my house. He's done a lot of work on my house, and I trade him for pieces of paper willingly. Absolutely. I don't want to climb on that ladder. So you're willing to? I'll pay you for that, And another guy was, he was spreading mulch for me yesterday or the day before. And, we came to an agreement. He spread mulch. I handed him some pieces of paper. It was really easy, because I didn't want to break my back again.
Yeah.
So people are willing to do that. Like I said, to do the things that they don't want to do. I have a billing service that I pay an ungodly amount of money to every month because they do the stuff that I don't want to do. I don't want to get on the phone and argue with an insurance company for an hour to get me paid for one session, but they will. And, so I, there are all kinds of, opportunities. I don't have to do the billing. I just send them, I fax them a sheet of billing, and they do whatever magic they do to get money going into my bank account. So, and I'm not going to, they're very good at what they do. So, and I'm very good at what I do. At least that's what people tell me. So, I do what I do, and they do what they do, and I pay them for that privilege of not having to do the things that I don't know how to do or I don't want to do. So, but yeah, there's, like I said, that checklist is about what do you bring to the table, and how can you uh you know how can you put you in contact with people who want to do the things that, or you do that you're good at doing the things that they don't want to do. Medical billing. Everybody's always looking for medical billing. Doctors don't write notes anymore. They talk into a little recorder. They send it off. It gets transcribed. They send it back, and then people pay them to do that. If you can type, you get and you know the English language. You get a job right there. So there's all, like I said, you just have to be resourceful enough to, um, you know, but yeah, that, you know, so yeah, when you sit down with somebody, I mean, look at what they've done, what they've been able to, what kind of, what they bring to the table, and start there, and then how
Yeah.
can that skill set or mindset get you paid?
And a couple of, I don't know, tips, tricks, whatever, that I've given to clients is don't stop looking at job opportunities just because you have a job. Unless that job is the hot bomb diggity and there's no way they could ever replace you, keep your eye out for the better job. And if you get into a situation, trust me, I've been unemployed a couple of times, but I've done stuff like seen a help wanted sign and went in and I said, yeah, I'm here for the job. Well, have you done this before? Well, it's been a while since I've done it, so why don't you show me how you want it done and I'll do it that way instead. I've also had places that weren't looking for help, but I knew that I wanted to work there. And I was between jobs, and so I just went in and said, I want to work here. And they're like, well, we don't have any openings right now. I said, there's got to be something, sweeping floors, taking out garbage, um, cleaning windows, something. I'm not, I don't have a job right now. Let me work for you for a week. If, if, or 2 weeks. And if what I'm doing here is of no value to you, let me know. No harm, no foul, no nothing. My days are open anyway. And if at the end of 2 weeks you still don't have a position for me, but you enjoyed the service that I provided, could you maybe pop me some money just so I can eat? And I got a couple of jobs that way. So there's lots of different ways to get your foot in the door. Mark.
Totally agree. Totally agree, TJ. There, like I said, you offer a week or so. I'll work for free for a week. See what I bring to the table. If you don't, after a week, if we can go our separate ways. You know, but I want to say a little story about my daughter. She got out of college, and she was out of college for 2 weeks, and she was freaking out. She didn't have a job, so she applied for a job that she wasn't qualified for, and she went in. It was a female owner, and they connected. She didn't use the interview blaster, which you can get to if you want, TJ. But she impressed the woman with who she was, and she said, "You know what? You're not qualified for this job, but I own the company, so I'm gonna hire you. Half the time, you're gonna be my personal assistant, and the other half of the time, you're going to learn every job in this company.
Yes.
And because she impressed her with who she was. She reminded her of her when she was that young.
Yes.
And she, so she got the job and she started to learn all the other jobs in the company. And the company was like, they were installing upgraded power systems, lights for different, um, for different companies and showing the savings that they would garner long term. And they had a contract with the electric company to provide that service because it's less load on the system. And the last job she had before she moved on to another job is she did the entire contract for the Boston Garden, redoing all the lights, a multi-million-dollar job.
Wow.
And that was the last job she had with that. She moved on to another company, but yeah, but she impressed the woman with who she was.
Yeah.
And the woman on the spot, just created a job for her.
Hmm. I was telling a story to I had the LP guy come out and fill our tanks. We got LP out here, but I said this little project back here we put in a generator, and I said I got offered jobs by 3 different companies because of this project. Just because they showed up and I was willing to work with them alongside them, and the electrician offered me a job, the gas company offered me a job, and a different contractor that came out for another little thing offered me a job. And I was like, yeah, I understand it. Thank you, but I'm not looking for a job. Mark.
Another story. One of my guys, he knew this rich guy, and he tried to pay his kids $200 a week to take out the trash. So, and they were like, "Oh, I'm not doing that." So he gets paid every week $200 for taking out this rich guy's trash. That's not bad.
Yeah. Yep. I've seen plenty of them. Gary Vaynerchuk is very famous for pointing out that if you have a smartphone in this day and age, he will show you how to make money with your smartphone if that's all you got. There are so many different ways that people haven't thought of. Uh, I hate the phrase thinking outside the box because to me that means that there's actually walls and a top and limitations. Destroy the box and start thinking. If you're in a job that you hate, that you suck, that you have anxiety that it may go away, start looking. Get turned down while you still have a job until you can find, and if you get a job offer for that better job, take it. And don't burn the bridge on the job you have right now. Simply tell them, I had a job offer come up. It's better hours, better pay, better bennies, better. There's something better about it, and I just can't pass it up. Give them the proper 2 week notice. Perform properly through those 2 weeks. Make them miss you. Make them want you back in the event that the new job doesn't pan out the way you had hoped. But keep looking. My wife is an executive recruiter, and one of the things that we've talked about is when she's looking at interviewing people for certain positions, there are a couple of different red flags. One, have they been at the same place, the same position for a long, long time? Nowadays, that's a red flag. That's not trying to move forward, not trying to move up the ranks. And it used to be that, oh my gosh, if you had so many X amount of different employers in a certain amount of time, well, that's a red flag. Nowadays, not so much, as long as you were moving upward as you change jobs. Now, if you stayed perfectly horizontal and you had multiple employers, but you had the exact same rank or went down, that's where the red flag pops up. Mark.
Hi, Lenora. I was going to tell a story about my son. He's changed jobs about 5 times, and every time it was a step up. The last time was in November. He got laid off, and he's always, searching for the next highest job. And so he already had a couple interviews with different organizations, and that when and he didn't expect to get laid off, but he was unemployed like 2 weeks before he landed a new job, and now he's director of AI for Yahoo. Um, that was quite a step up, but his getting laid off didn't distress him. He had an emergency fund. He figured they gave him a great severance package, and now he's still getting paid by the old company, and he's getting paid by Yahoo for at least until I think May or June. But he once you're in a position, always be looking for the next rung. And that's what he
Yes.
was doing, and so he had irons in the fire even before they dropped the nuke. They called it, they canceled his meetings for the day. They said he had to meet with HR, and he called in. Yep, you're gone. He's like, okay. And within within 2 weeks, he had a better job, better benefits, better salary,
Mm-hmm.
better title. So sometimes that stuff happens, and they say the statistics are that the kids these days, they go through 5 different career iterations within their job. You don't just work for one company for 30 years anymore and retire.
Yeah.
But in this country, it's like 5 different career paths, and his was all over the place, so um, you know, uh, he went from working in the camera department at Best Buy to director of AI for Yahoo in maybe 5 or 6 years. So
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah. Again, that's why I don't stress so much about it. You know, I've had some type of personal business hustle, whatever, since I was probably 8, right, Mom? But that's because of how and where I grew up. That was an exception to the rule. But again, part of it is if you are not in a job that you thoroughly enjoy and you feel somewhat confident that you're going to be allowed to be there for a while, work on your skill sets. How marketable are you? Do you have skills that are in need? And again, we pointed out, you don't have to be skilled to a level of being uh, CEO tomorrow. But keep looking around, see what other people are doing. And I've told this story many times. Trust me, there is a job out there that will make you go, are you kidding me? People actually get paid to do that? I would do that for free, and they're making how much? Yes, those jobs are out there. One of my clients, it's been about 6 years ago now, was in a job that was soul sucking, draining their life source, and they hated it. And they couldn't see a way out. And this was in San Diego, and so they'd come to me to get over some of their fears about looking for a job and some communication skill sets and things of that nature. And when they were talking about how much they hated their job, but they were afraid they wouldn't be able to find one, as I got to know them, I found out that one of their passions was hiking. And yes, I had some inside information because of my wife, but I pointed out to them that the Public Works Department was looking for somebody to hire to part of the job description was taking care of the trails that they love to hike on. And my client was like, "You're for real, real? For real?" Yeah. Well, they managed to get the job for more pay and bennies and got to be outdoors on the trails they love and take care of them and got paid for it. Those jobs are out there, but they rarely know where you are and track you down and knock on the door of your house on the weekend and go, "Hey, you busy? We've been looking for you for 20 years. We finally found you. Will you please come work for us?" You actually have to find them and put some work in on it. Any other ahas, epiphanies on that? Great question, Mr. V. Mr. V put in there, so does the job seeking checklist differ for blue collar versus white collar? That um, and then Mike put in, also, is there a way to control your expenses to make your financial life easier? Two amazing questions, but because we're in second hour, I'm going to offer up to anybody on the call to answer before I do. Anybody got any answers for those two questions? Quick. Holly.
I can definitely respond to the expense side. I would say there's two things that it's good to do. So the first thing is know the difference between expenses and investments.
Yep.
And sometimes things that may seem like they're expenses, as I'm learning, a certain TJ may have taught me this, but your health, for example, is an investment. And so investing in good food is an investment, not even though it may feel like it's an expense. But also notice that, so maintaining your assets is a good idea. You are not saving money by letting your assets fall apart.
Yep.
Now you might have to prioritize. You might say, I'm going to have to do it next month or whatever, but always keep in mind, you're just delaying the expense. You're not eliminating the expense whenever you delay maintenance. But outside of those things, I highly recommend experimenting with what you think is a need that might be a luxury that you could do without for a short period. And I actually recommend doing it at some point just to prove to yourself that you can.
Okay.
So, growing up, we went without TV a lot. We went without internet. We didn't have the newspaper, which I know is not so much a thing nowadays, but it was a big deal back then. Um, it's amazing how many things that seem like they're necessary are not necessary, and you can survive just fine without them. But I think the biggest thing is until you've lived that, even if it's just once, you live with it just once and you're like, hey, you know what? I could do that again. It's not necessarily how I want to live my life always, but if I need to do it to get something better, I can do that. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I would recommend, even if you're a multimillionaire and you think you're never going to need anything again, doing it just because sometimes it's nice to know your strengths, know what you're capable of, and know what's important in life too.
Yes. Great, great answers. Thank you, Holly. Mark.
Yeah, recently I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube about the Amish and how they live very frugally. I have copied a couple things. I made some dishwasher detergent that with a couple of cheap substances. You're paying you're paying for advertising. You're paying all those things. Like it cost me 8 cents to wash my dishes now. It cost me about 10 cents. I got enough borax and other stuff now. I can probably do a load of wash for about 10 or 12 cents. I don't have to pay $6 or $8 for a bottle of liquid or a pod that I'm paying for the advertising. And I've tried them and they work just as well as the commercial stuff. And you know, um, fan uses a lot less energy than an air conditioner. So, first thing in the morning, I open the windows and I have the cool air blow in, shut the windows, and I can get to about noontime without having to, or higher, without having to turn on the AC. You know, you gotta, like I said, we've been programmed to try to, do all these things. We take them for granted, again, but saving money at the, grocery store is a big expense these days. So, I get tired of paying the VIG with the dishwasher pods and the laundry detergent. That's just two ways that I've found to, wash clothes without, and get my dishes washed. And it's just as good as the commercial stuff, and it's
Yep.
pennies on the dollar. So, you got to look around and, like I said, and the Amish have been very good at doing this stuff for a long time. And you start seeing what they do and how they do it. And, they don't spend money. They might, with thing we didn't touch on, TJ, with the job is, the barter system. You have skill set in sewing and somebody
Mhm.
wants a dress made and somebody else, can repair your tractor. And there's a whole secondary economy where you can get, where maybe it's not money you're exchanging, but you're exchanging your knowledge and your labor for what other people can't do. Like I said, dog walking is a great example. So you gotta really, just be resourceful enough. If you're gonna be trying to be saving, money, because if you look at all your expenses with that kind of eye, that, well, do I really need to spend that? Like Holly said, is there something I can, can I use a fan for most of the day and not have to spend $200 on electricity for my air conditioner? How do the, how do the Amish do it? They have, there's all kinds of techniques that they proponed. They have very cool houses during the summer. They don't have air conditioning. A lot of them don't have electricity,
Yep.
and there's ways to heat and cool your house that don't involve the grid, and yeah, I've been fascinated by how they don't even Like you said, they start a garden, so you're not beholden on, I've got a couple of tomato plants growing. I just had some lettuce off of the lettuce I've been growing. I'm still working on onions. I'm not quite sure whether or not I grow kind of onions, but
Yep.
you have to, and they get heirloom seeds so that you can take the seeds and, plant the crop next year and you don't have to pay anybody anything. So there's all kinds of ways to save money if you just look at it differently. Like I said, what are your expenses? Okay, can you combine trips? Can you save a little gas there? Can you, um, you know, what are the ways that, again, subscribe. I had my debit card get phished, so I changed it. And when I did, I found out that I was paying for subscription fees every year that I really didn't, I had forgotten I had signed up for.
Yep.
So saved myself a couple $100 because somebody tried to get my information and, off my debit card. So, um, how much of that stuff are we paying for? We don't even realize we're paying for it. You just click a button on your phone or your computer, and all of a sudden you're, and you forget about it. I had Speechify on mine. That was $200 a year. I had a couple of other services that I was able to go through Apple and delete
Yep.
and save myself $300 or $400 a year. So
Yep.
you gotta look at things a little differently when you're trying. When times get tough, and you want to have um, you know a mind that's open to not what are the preconceptions? Do you have to get a new car every 5 years? Do you have to upgrade your washing machine when your washing machine's working fine? If you take care of it, what do if you take care of your car, how long is it going to last? My last car lasted 230,000 miles. I'm hoping to do better with this one. So, just, it doesn't have to be the biggest, baddest, and best. So there's all kinds of
And
ways, you know.
the cool thing is with the internet availability now, the information, the things that you can learn in your spare time, the ability to make yourself far more marketable is one. Two, the information that can teach you how to be much more sustainable, how to save money, how to cook, how to make things. There's so much information out there. Um, like one guy I follow, Meat Dad on social media, teaches you how to uh, go out and do buy larger cuts of meat at a much more reduced price and cut them up into uh, the expensive cuts. And real quick to answer Mr. V's question about the job seeking checklist differing for blue collar versus white collar, it is different. And part of that I'm going to summarize into the difference between hardware and software, where blue collar being more of the hardware, using your body and what can you physically do, versus white collar being more of the software. What do you have up? What skill sets do you have up here? Do you understand how to do things on the computer? Do you have management skill sets? Do you have um, things of that nature, being able to work with your body? So that's what I think is the more prominent differences between blue collar and white collar checklists for job seeking. But it's still even with some of the, because I've worked both, some of it is still the initiative and learning how to go in and get your foot in the door and looking for the way to work yourself up the financial pay ladder. And also one thing that I want to mention real quick, it's not always the check for the pay. There are a lot of different ways that employers can pay you extra. I know people who have negotiated a company vehicle, additional bennies, you know, other ways of getting paid, additional time off in lieu of getting paid to where you end up in the next tax bracket and giving all of your additional income to the government. And educating yourself, where is that tax bracket level? If I take this pay raise, is it going to benefit me? Oh, I got a $3 an hour pay raise. And finding out that you were already this close to the next tax bracket, and that $3 an hour pay raise bumped you into the very bottom of the next tax bracket up, and the taxes took away more than the money you got for the raise. So there's a lot of it is making sure that you are educated to be able to play in that field. Holly.
So I will just say a couple other things on controlling expenses. One thing I've learned is always make sure you have a mental health fund no matter how much you're making. If you make it a percentage of your income, even if it's just like 2%, you never want to be in a place where you've turned into the boss that's squeezing yourself so hard you don't want to work anymore.
Yep.
And you can also do it as a, 2% on the first bit, but if I work any OT, I'm going to give myself 50% of everything that's OT or something like that.
Yeah.
Another thing is always have some percentage, even if it's, 1, 2%, whatever it may be, that goes to charity, because emotionally it will always put you in a place where you recognize it's not all about you. You've always got something of you're recognizing there are people who are worse off than you, whatever it may be. Those are worth spending, even if you're tight. Another thing that, oh gosh, what's his name? I just blinked. Dave Ramsey says he recommends doing for controlling expenses. Now, this doesn't work so much for me because I feel it very solidly when I pay for something digitally, but he recommends getting envelopes and putting cash in all the envelopes for all your expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you absolutely have to pay it digitally, but then just immediately reimburse it with cash, because a lot of people, when you're paying digital money, don't see it as real. And you need to have physical bills in your hand to say, oh, this is what I'm actually spending, and I understand it now. And then the other thing is just the biggest way that you could get your your expenses under control. Get rid of interest as much as possible. Get rid of your debt as fast as possible.
Yes.
And if you have an emergency fund, so you don't have to get into debt, is a huge deal. And if you're in a place where you say, well, I don't know how to do that, it's amazing how fast it can add up. I'm not saying everybody has this ability, but even if you have the ability to say, say your job lets you work OT, say I'm going to work OT once a month, and I'm going to take 50% of that paycheck and I'm going to throw it to debt, extra payment on debt, and I'm going to take the other 50% and I'm going to, have fun with it or whatever. Because I know some people who, for example, if they get that OT money, they're like, oh, look, I've got money I could go shopping with. Oh,
Yes.
Look, I've got money I could go to the movie theater with. It's like, no, I've got money I could pay off interest with, and it's going to pay off with interest my whole life. It's a much better way if you want to get on top of things. So, yeah, I think I had another one, but I just forgot what it was. So hopefully those help.
Well, those were absolutely top-notch uh, things, because one of the things that I was going to point out, if you're doing okay, and I don't mean struggling paycheck to paycheck and freaking out because you've got too much month at the end of the money, if you still have your money, some money at the end of the month, and you get a raise, take that extra money and put it into solid investments, CDs, and don't just put it into a savings account that pays you like nothing. There are ways to invest that, and yeah, you're probably not going to be making 100% turnover every year, but if you're already able to live, take whatever extra you have and put that into investments. And like you pointed out, Holly, when you don't see it, you'll be surprised at how quickly it adds up. And Mark, real quick, because we're at the end of 2 hours.
Something I found out a few weeks ago is rich people always talk about, that you don't want to, you have a job, you get a salary, you get paid at the end of the week. It's like a bucket. You can have a bigger bucket. If somebody makes more money, it's a bigger bucket. But somebody can always take the bucket away. And you don't, because you're going to the well and you're getting every week and getting that paycheck. You don't want to you don't want to just be taking a bucket full of cash, or water, because really what you want to do, you want to own the well. You want to have an
Yes,
income stream,
yes.
and if you have an income stream, again, you'll never go thirsty, especially if you have two or three.
Yep, especially if you can figure out how to make money while you're sleeping, which the wealthy do. But
Well,
that
it's
takes
you
us
can work
right
you can
past.
you can work a lot of hours, and but your money can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a
Yep,
week for you.
exactly. And that takes us past the top of the hour and finishes off yet another Triple T, number 233. Thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate you so much. And I know, Lenora, we know you were busy. You're fine. We appreciate it. For the rest of you, and I also get to say, for those of you on YouTube, love you, Mom. Thanks for watching. If you got some value out of this, please share it with as many people as you can. And thank you for your most valuable asset of time. I can't give it back yet, but if I figure it out, you'll be second to know. But with the passage of time, that means hopefully I'll get to see your beautiful faces back here in 7 beautiful days. So go out, live life as well as you can, throttle down, make the world a better place, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Good night, all.